Hello, everyone. Welcome. I see lots of people starting to file in, which is great. We're going to get started in just a moment, but while people are filing in, if you want to just put maybe your name and the name of your organization in the chat, we would love to get to know everybody a little bit better.
We absolutely do. I'm hoping to see some good cross-country representation today. Oh, yes. Look, friends are joining already. It was fun as I was looking at some of the questions to see friends that have signed up. Hope they get something new.
Amazing. Yeah, we've got people from BC, people from Toronto, from Hamilton. Amazing. Welcome. Oh, wow. Look at everybody. Okay. This is great. This is so great to see everybody coming in. Okay, we're going to get started because we've got a lot to cover today. But I want to start by thanking everybody for taking some time out of your busy schedules to be here. My name is Meredith. I'm Keela's head of marketing. We also are joined by Stephanie, Keela's marketing specialist, who's going to be helping us out on the tech side of things. So you may see Stephanie in the chat box or answering some of your tech questions. So feel free to say hello to Steph. Before we get started, I just want to start the session today by acknowledging that Keela's head office is located in Vancouver, which is on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Coast Salish people, the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations, and give thanks for their generosity and hospitality on these lands and waters. If you're new to Keela, welcome. Keela is a fundraiser's CRM, meaning that it is designed with the unique needs of fundraisers in mind and aims to unify fundraising, communications, and donor management into one single source of truth for fundraisers. So should you have any questions during the presentation that you would like Heather to answer, please enter them in either the chat box or the Q&A, and we will get to as many as we can towards the end of the call. And speaking of the chat box, please remember to select everyone when you type so that all of our guests today can read your comments and questions. And finally, the most popular question, yes, the webinar is being recorded and you will receive access to the recording before the end of this week. So before I hand it over to Heather to kick us off, I want to welcome Malia, who is here to just say a few words on behalf of Imagine Canada's Grant Connect.
Awesome. Thank you, Meredith. Yes. Hi, everyone. It's great to see such a full room this afternoon. My name is Malia Rogers. I'm Grant Connect's Content Management Coordinator. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm coming to you from the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation, colonially known as Ottawa, Ontario. And I'm really pleased to be here today to learn from Heather with you about how to build sustainable corporate partnerships. But I'm happy to take a moment before we start to just talk a little bit about Imagine Canada's fundraising platform, Grant Connect, because there might be some folks here new to that as well. So Grant Connect is one of Canada's oldest social enterprises, drawing on more than 50 years of research experience to provide subscribers across the sector with high quality funder data. And our mission is to help Canadian charities and nonprofits find funders and opportunities that align with their work and their values, and to save time doing so. Many of us know how much time it can take to find quality funding opportunities, and Grant Connect helps with that by offering data on well over 11,000 Canadian foundations, over 500 corporations, hundreds of government grant programs, and a lot of other funding sources, including international opportunities. And I'll add here, it's exciting that thanks to our recent acquisition of another research platform called Fund Tracker, we are increasing the number of corporate funding opportunities in Grant Connect by the day, and now have access to more corporate data than ever, which is awesome. Grant Connect is a super user-friendly platform designed for fundraisers, development officers, prospect researchers, nonprofit and charity executives, and social entrepreneurs and students entering the sector. And our team spends a whole lot of time looking at corporate funding programs, and Imagine Canada as an organization also spends a lot of time engaging with corporations through other avenues like our Caring Company certification program. So we're very invested in helping businesses find ways to create meaningful and lasting impact in communities, and just as invested in helping charities and nonprofits find and build partnerships with businesses to meet those same shared goals. So that's pretty much all from me. If you want to learn anything more about Grant Connect, or you have any suggestions for making the platform more useful for your organization, feel free to email us at grantconnect@imaginecanada.ca. And thanks in advance to Heather for what I'm sure is going to be a really exciting and informative webinar. So I'll send it back over to Meredith to make that introduction. Thank you.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Malia. So now I'm really excited to welcome our expert speaker for today, Heather Nelson. Heather is the founder and president of boutique fundraising consultancy BridgeRaise. Heather and her team help nonprofits, just like many of you, raise more money from companies by prioritizing aligned values. Heather has also worked in the nonprofit sector for her whole career, having held positions in program management, marketing, and fundraising. So I can think of no one better to be here today to talk about corporate partnerships. So I'm going to hand it over to Heather.
Thanks so much to you both, and Tequila and Imagine Canada and Grant Connect for having me here today. And for all of you who have taken time out of your schedules to join me. I know that all of you have many things on your plates, and it's taking time for a webinar may not be the top one. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from you in the chat and getting all your questions, and hopefully what I have to offer today will give you some good nuggets. So you're in the right place if you want to think about sustainable and successful corporate partnerships. And spoiler alert, how they're not an accident, right? They're intentional, they're planned, they take energy from the people that are making them happen, which I imagine are those of you that are on the call today. And that's what I'm hoping to share with you, some of those strategies to be intentional about having the best kinds of corporate partnerships at your organization. I will say I have my little bio here, which has already been well covered, but I use the word specialist and not expert because I truly believe that becoming an expert is almost unattainable. You become a specialist who's always learning when you're in corporate partnership space because it changes all the time. And that's my commitment to you, is that myself and my team at BridgeRaise, we spend our time learning about corporate partnership and making sure that we are up to speed on all the best things that are going on there. My whole career has been in the nonprofit sector, and for the last number of years, 8 years, in the business BridgeRaise, which I own and run, and for quite a few years before that, I focused exclusively on corporate partnerships. And as not even a side note, I also love boosting fundraisers. So if you need a boost, join my LinkedIn, DM me. I love encouraging fundraisers on their journey. There is a QR code there. It'll be in a few places throughout if you're not handy with that, or a link that is to a workbook that I think will be helpful. And as you listen today, maybe some ideas about what might be in there will come up. So let me get started. We're going to warm up first. I will tell you that my first choice would be to be in the same room with all of you so I could see your faces and like the yays and the when I'm working through stuff. And because I can't, I have to count on you to put that in the chat if there's something that you don't understand or something that needs clarification. So please do use the chat for that. And just to make sure that it's working, let's start with this. If you have a partnership that is exactly what you dreamed of, I want you to put the word yes in the chat. If you have a whole bunch of them, say we do. And if you're still trying to figure out how to get a corporate partnership that really works, you can say me. Oh, lots of people have we do's. Okay, awesome. I'm thrilled to hear that. For those of you who are still trying to figure out, no problem. I've got you. We've got some solutions for that as well. Okay, so I was gonna start with inspiration. Who doesn't want to start with a bit of inspiration? I was listening to the news one day, and there was a big announcement. A big company was going to invest a huge amount of money in food security. Excuse me. And I was working as a food security fundraiser, so perfect, right? They're aligned. I reached out. I had a great conversation. We started talking. We had a number of calls. And by the end, we had an agreement in place. Everything was perfect, right? This is the partnership of your dreams. Fast forward a few months later, the program team that I worked with came to me and shared that there was a whole bunch of elements of what we had agreed to that weren't going to happen. Not on time, not exactly the way we had intended. And I had to go back and make that phone call where I was like, partner, these are the things that are not happening that we had planned. Yes, I was nervous, but I was transparent. I told them exactly what was going on. And you know what? We adjusted. They adjusted with me. We came up with a plan of what it would look like going forward. And the reason that happened is because they were as invested in the impact of this project as we were. And their statement of commitment to food security was significant enough that they were willing to learn along the way. This is the kind of partnership that has sustainability and long-term timelines because both people are working together. And then on top of that, building the trust of being transparent made us even stronger. So this is the kind of inspiration I want you to think about throughout the conversation today. Is this what you can have? Can you have a successful corporate partnership that has some of those elements from that story? So what we're going to cover today. I'm going to start with a little bit more time on this concept of what is a successful partnership, because it's definitely true that it's pretty hard to have a successful partnership if you don't know exactly what that looks like for your organization. And what it looks like for one organization may not be exactly what it looks like for another one. And then we're going to go into the 3 secrets. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know if these are really secrets as much as, philosophies or strategies or tactics. But hopefully for those of you who are experienced in the space, there'll be a nugget or 2 that you can pull from it. And for those of you who are new, there's ideas that will help you position how you move forward. So we're going to talk about 3, the mindset for success, integrating the long-term approach throughout the corporate partnership sales cycle, and the importance of stickiness. Okay, so we need to start with the obvious. What is corporate partnership? And while in many presentations, you maybe wouldn't have to start with a definition, one of the things that we're really good at in fundraising is having a lot of definitions for the same thing, or there's slight differences between them. So I want to get us all on the same page on that. If you were thinking we're talking about corporate grants, we are. Corporate sponsorship, yeah, we're covering that too. And corporate partnership. The reason I use this term is this aligns with the philosophy that I started with, that I want there to be values alignment. I want us to feel like we're both participating in this partnership, both the charity and the organization. So the term corporate partnership for me is the most broad, and it extends beyond sponsorship. Sponsorship, by definition, has a very transactional marketing benefit element to it. And when we get into partnership, we allow ourselves to also have impact measurements, programs, lots of different components, maybe an employee engagement component as well. Maybe there's a grant, maybe there's value in kind, and that can all be included in this definition. I also think of it as exceeding sponsorship value. I know a lot of us go out and ask for corporate sponsorship, but we know that the business value we're offering probably doesn't meet the amount we're asking for. So what's the gap? Well, the gap is partnership. The gap is they believe in what we're doing in the community. They believe in the difference we're making in the world, and therefore they're willing to spend more than the business value. It definitely balances out both impact, the measurement, the impact your organization is going to have, as well as there could be some marketing or employee engagement or other benefits. So, what it is not. Corporate partnerships is not philanthropy, okay? In fact, for me, I don't believe that there is actually true corporate philanthropy. Those words don't go together for me because there's always some business benefit. By definition, there needs to be some business benefit. Now, that doesn't mean the person themselves isn't really committed to your cause. But if a company is giving charity or nonprofit money, there is a business benefit. It is not just sponsorship when it's partnership, because we are talking about impacts and values alignment and maybe employee engagement and all these other things. And the last thing it's not is a favor. These companies are not doing you a favor by giving you money or investment. And we're going to talk more about that. And to think about that, that's why we don't give things away for free. So if you want to stop giving things away for free, I have a workbook for that. That might be your employee engagement programs, volunteerism, content, education, all kinds of things that I see charities giving away for free. And companies should be paying for those benefits. So let's stop doing that. Are people going to stop doing that? Let me see in the chat. No giving away for free. All right. Now we're talking about successful corporate partnerships. So, frankly, I feel like you should always have successful corporate partnerships, but I know some of them are more clunky than others. What a successful corporate partnership has, though, is first, as I've already talked about in the opening example, the food security and the company that is seeking to have an impact in food security. Their values aligned, right? We want to ensure that both parties are respected and heard. Okay, this is very, very important to a successful corporate partnership. I was talking to a client at one point, and she said, whenever a company calls or whenever I get on the phone with a company, I just wait to be run over. I was like, the worst thing I've ever heard. And I thought to myself, most company representatives that I know would feel horrible if they heard that. Just horrible. And how can we ensure that we shift away from that? Because that is not going to feel good. It is not successful if that is what you feel like when you're getting on the phone. So let's make sure that both partners are respected and heard. And in a great scenario, most successful corporate partnerships are long-term. That does not mean that they necessarily sign a multi-year agreement, but that there is a year-over-year commitment. Because you know what? You and I both know that to get a corporate partnership in place, it takes a lot of energy. If you're going to do it properly, like we're going to talk about, it's going to be a real investment of your time. And if we're investing our time in something, we want it to last, right? We want to make sure that it has staying power so that we can really reap the benefits of a strong partnership. Okay, so those are my suggestions of what is a successful corporate partnership. I would love to see in the chat what else you would add. What other things characterize a successful corporate partnership for you? Okay, I know there's always a bit of delay with the chat. I hope it's not just a delay that everyone's like, I can't think of anything. Oh no, there we go. Trust. Oh, that's such a good one. Love that. Being upfront about boundaries, boundary setting, like such a good one too. Fun. Oh, I love it. I have fun. I have fun, especially if we get to be creative together and everyone's joining in. Strong relationship, mutual respect. Such good examples. Engagement, win-win. All right, you've got it. You've got it. This is it. This is what we want to have happen for our organizations. We want to have this sort of successful corporate partnership. So how do you make sure that happens? Well, one of the ways I'm going to propose is that you're really clear on that. So what's your North Star statement for partnership? Do you have the values that you've just described written down somewhere? Are they held across your organization? And do you hold true to them when you're making your day-to-day decisions about what companies you're going to reach out to and what you're going to do with your time? I was talking to one of the clients we work with about their ideal partner, and they basically said what's written here. We want them to be aligned with our organization. We want mutual respect in our interactions. We want to know that we offer value and we are going to be compensated. We want there to be transparent communications, and we want it to build towards a long term. These are some of the things that you covered, although definitely have a few ideas about things we could add. When they mentioned that this was their, ideal corporate partnership, I was like, perfect. Let's work on those kinds of companies, right? Those kinds of partnerships. Fast forward a little while later, a board director or somebody else had said to them, maybe you should be getting out more proposals. Just, we have a list, send out more proposals. And Maria asked me, Heather, should I just be doing that? That's the recommendation. I don't want to be holding my organization back. Should I just be sending out more stuff? And I was like, what's our statement? What are we trying to accomplish here? And when we went back to this North Star statement, it became clear that it would be impossible to really build the kinds of partnerships that are described here by scattering information to a whole bunch more organizations, a whole bunch more companies. It didn't align. So if it was a limited amount of time that you have, why wouldn't you spend it on the companies where this is a possible outcome, where this is even a likely outcome because of the work you've done in advance? So thinking about that statement, is this an opportunity to translate what some of you have put in the chat into that example? I asked one of my colleagues, Vanessa at Layup, this is a youth organization that works with youth basketball, and what an ideal partnership was at their organization. And she talked about Layup and Nike and how they invested in their organization. And also, there was an employee engagement program, but the employee engagement program was clearly still about the impact of the organization and not about the employees themselves. And this kind of real partnership showed a real understanding on the corporate side about what their role was in the partnership: to invest, to amplify, to support, and to be a great volunteer, but not make it about them. So this is the kind of thing we want to see more and more. And how you get those is by having those open conversations about what you want to have in place. So we have big love for corporate partnerships that look like that. So quick exercise. You're getting this after. So, I got to see a typo. Sorry about that. Think about this after. So I want you to take action by putting 30 minutes in your calendar and think about your favorite partnership. Take some ideas maybe from this presentation, the different examples that I've given you already, or maybe some of the comments that you've seen, and write a list or even a paragraph that describes what your ideal partnership is about, right? What it looks like, what it feels like, how it represents your values and their values. And can you, from that, create a North Star statement for your corporate partnership program? Maybe one that you can lean into, but in an ideal way, is that something that you could share amongst other people at your organization to make sure that everybody understands what you're working on, that that your goal here is to get partnerships that are aligned, that work well for you. You're not trying to find companies that have really dissonant values, right? And then the next time you're planning your corporate partnership time, and I hope all of you have a little bit of time carved out of your calendar, or a lot if this is your sole focus, pick some of your activities to reflect that North Star. Prioritize the activities that are going to maximize these kinds of partnerships. Okay, before I go into the secrets, here we are. Turning point here. Are there any quick questions of clarification before I move into the next section? I'm just scrolling. I haven't seen any. Yes, you're going to get my slides. Slides and recording coming your way. No problem. Okay, here we go. Okay. So as I said, we're going to cover the 3 secrets of sustainable and successful partnership. And I'm hoping that these are some good nuggets in here and that you feel inspired. I love working on corporate partnerships. I get excited when they're going well. And I really want to extend that energy to you, that when things are rolling in a positive way, it feels good. It feels aligned. It feels like it's going to make a difference for your organization. And it has sustainability built in. But it does require focus, attention, and in some cases, some structure or policies in place at your organization. It is not something that just happens by accident. So here we go. Secret number 1. the success mindset. Really, it is, I was going to tell you. So I saw this quote, "You are the prize, the funder isn't." Showed up on my LinkedIn feed this week. It was like the universe was listening to this presentation. Not even going to guess. Probably there's some algorithm that served this up for me, which was perfect. Kevin Brown posted this. He went on to suggest that we reject the term "we won a new grant" and move to "they won a new grantee." You are the prize and the funder isn't. Better yet, how about we both won a new partnership? I love this. It's so aligned with what I want you to hear today. In order to build sustainable corporate partnerships, you must believe that it is possible. You must believe that your organization has value and that a certain level of exchange is possible. How does that feel for you? If we pause here for a second and you think to yourself what it would feel like to feel like you're the organization is the prize, that you have won a partnership, how does that shift? How does that feel? Do people get excited by that proposition? Right? So good. So let's think about how we can put that in place. My friend and super smarty, Mallory Erickson, talks about this cognitive feedback loop. If you're not following her on LinkedIn, highly recommend. And her feedback loop that she proposes is you start with the beliefs, that leads to thoughts, that brings up emotions, and that's what drives your energy or your activity. So if you start with the belief that you're the prize, you have value, your organization has something to offer, then this cycle takes a very different form than if you think of it as this company is doing me a favor or I really need this money, right? It shifts the conversation. So I encourage you to think about it from that point of view. I'm going to give you a couple more here. So the success mindset for corporate partnerships starts with our organization has value. There are things that we have to offer that the businesses and companies that we're reaching out to, they want, right? Some specific examples, there is a lot of data to show how important employee volunteerism is to companies, to their ability to retain employees, to their ability to build a corporate culture. Right. That's one example. If they are driving towards having impact on a certain area of work that we all, our charities work on, whether it's education, mental health, women's breast cancer, like they want to make a difference in these spaces, they need a partner that is doing that work. You have value. The second one, that we are partners. Right. If you go into the conversation believing that there's an exchange, that we're equal, that we're having a meaningful conversation together, then you are in a great spot, right? You're going to have a better conversation. I also encourage two more that are a little bit more mindset / strategy, but this is a journey. I really think it's very, very difficult. And it's so much pressure if you think you have to do everything on one call. I finally got a call and I've got to make everything happen on this call. I've got to educate them. I've got to propose. I've got to build a relationship. I mean, that's a lot of pressure for one call. So if you back it up a little bit and try to accomplish a lot less on your first call or on the earliest days and think that you have time to educate, you have time to propose, you have time, that this is not all going to happen on one call, it can de-escalate the amount of pressure you put on yourself. And then the last one I want to propose is you can't get it wrong. I say this all the time to people around me. If you have been thoughtful and you come up with an idea of how you want to reach out or what you want to do, try it. Try it. If it's not perfect, we'll adjust, we'll course correct, we'll come up with a solution. But thinking about it for a really long time and trying to find something perfect where there really isn't something perfect, you can't possibly anticipate exactly how things are going to go, is really just spending a lot of energy on that. So give yourself permission to try some things and believe that you can't get it wrong. So what if I told you before that's what you could think before every meeting. What if you told yourself this before every meeting? Would it change how you enter the call? So the shifts. We're going to move from this side where it's a favor to our partner, where this call is the one opportunity you're going to get, and that you need to be perfect with all the answers, to thinking about it from this point of view, that we both have value and we're going to work on this together. But this is the first of many interactions we are going to have, and therefore I'm building, right? And that if I don't have, we're both learning, and if we don't have all the answers, I'm going to get them. I always tell people before they get on a call, have a couple of exit strategies. What if you wrote down ahead of time, if there's a question that I don't know the answer to, I'm going to say and practice it. I need to consult with my executive director and get back to you on that. There are other team members that need to weigh in on this decision. So it would be best for me if I take the time to make sure that I get the answer right, and I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to come back to you in a week. I'm going to come back to you in a few days, give them a sense of time and scope. But then you're answering the question without putting yourself in a position where you're answering something you're not comfortable with. If you have that written down ahead of time, you just drop it in wherever you need to, and you're good, right? And you're good. It's too much pressure to think you can answer everything. We just can't. It's not possible. So next exercise. Another 30 minutes in your calendar, and now you're going to write your own list of statements. What are the statements that would empower you? Might be the ones I've written here, or there might be something slightly different. Write your list of statements and put them somewhere where you can see them. The next time you have a call with a funder, take a few minutes before you read your briefing note, and then you read your statement so that you're ready to go, right? And tell yourself you can do this and put your name in. Back to Mallory Erickson, the smarty I just mentioned, there's a whole there's cognitive rules about why this helps you, but third personing yourself in this way really boosts your energy around it. And then after the call, ask yourself, was it different? How could I adjust my statements maybe to help empower me the next time? Okay. So I was working with a national environmental charity, and they were amazing. They had all of the things that you want, the brand that everybody had heard of. They had employee engagement opportunities, impact, all the things. And we worked with them on increasing the price point of their partnership. And that was our main goal. And we accomplished it. We did all this work. And then at the end, one of the main pieces of feedback was the most important thing we learned during our time is how much value we had to offer the companies. And yes, we did some work to back up what their value was, but really owning that value changed their conversations, changed the outreach. So if you haven't done that work, it is really something I encourage you to do. Make sure you know what the benefits are that your organization has that companies are looking for, and understand what their value is so that you can feel confident having a conversation where you know that you have something valuable to offer. Okay, secret number 2. Are we ready? It is long-term partnership, right? Is this you? A financial education organization came to me and they mentioned their priority was multi-year partnerships. I asked them, what benefit is it to the company to invest in multi-year partnerships with you? They paused, sort of crickets for a moment, and then I could see the light bulbs going off, and they were thinking, there isn't any, right? We just want multi-year partnerships, and we were going to ask for multi-year partnership with more of the same, like 2 or 3 years of the same benefits. And my response to that is, if you have not built a partnership and you don't have established trust, there is no benefit and a lot of risk to a company to commit to the long term. I'm going to say that again. There's no benefit and a lot of risk, right? They don't know yet that they're going to get what they want or need from the partnership in the first year, and they're not sure what working with you is like, and they don't really know. And so why would they sign to multi-year if there's no real advantage to them, rather than sign for one and then evaluate it and sign again? So if you want to have a multi-year situation, you can do what we did with that organization and start thinking about what would it look like to frame out the partnership in a way where there was a real benefit to the multi-year, where the company got something from saying yes to more than 1 year, the phasing of the deliverables, the long-term impact, maybe the brand alignment over time would have a strong impact from them. Maybe they're helping design the employee engagement program with a small group and then expanding it to more people. Think about how you can shift that conversation so that the benefits outweigh the risk. So, with that story, it's clear. It's not an accident to integrate long term. You have to be very mindful and intentional about how that works. And the intentionality doesn't just happen at the proposal phase, which it did in that example. I'm going to give other examples of how intentionality can find its way through the partnership cycle. And what is really helpful when you're thinking about this is think about the perspective of the cycle and the journey. So we're going to do this over time, and we're going to think about the build over time at the same time as what can we learn on the first pass through that we add into the proposal or adjust the partnership with in the second pass through. So here's the corporate partnership cycle. It's built on cycles that you've seen elsewhere. This is sort of the BridgeRaise approach, but we have these different stages. So we start with identifying and researching the companies, right? And we're looking for the right contact, the right alignment, the right connection. And then we have the next phase of cultivate and connect, where we're doing multiple outreaches, probably have to email and maybe, do something in social media. So some different outreaches to cultivate and connect the partnership together. Then we have the phase where we're going to ask questions. We're going to build a proposal that makes sense. We're going to implement the partnership agreement. And then all the way through, we've got these ongoing touch points. So this is our cycle or journey that we go on with the corporation, between the corporation and the charity. And the reason I'm introducing this is so that I can talk about what would be some elements that would build long-term thinking throughout the partnership cycle. So here we go. Let's think about this at each stage. So if long-term partnership is your goal, then at the identification and research phase, the most important thing you're looking for is alignment. Alignment with the impact that you want to have, alignment across audiences. It could be different types of alignment, but that's the most important priority. We know that the research shows that the best partnerships come out of partnerships built on alignment. So stage one, you want long-term, you start with a really heavily aligned corporate partnership. Then in the next phase, when you're cultivating and connecting, you're looking for ways to educate your prospects on your impact, on the need for your organization, on how you might work together while you're building connections. So there's different ways you might do that. I'll give an example in a minute. In the discovery and proposal phase, you're co-creating. Way back in the day, got married, told everyone after I'd already picked the location, the dress, the food, all the things, and served it up for them, right? That's the same Parallel is if you've already figured out your whole program and your whole thing, and then you serve it up for the company, like, do you want this or not? These kinds of examples where you've already baked everything and then you go does not make the person feel like they're involved in the process. So how can you bring them in by not having everything fully thought through? What are the questions you can ask? How can you bring them into the fold during the discovery and proposal phase? And then, as I said, we also want to build the benefit of partnering long term by adding things over time. During the implementation phase, you're looking for lessons that you're learning and shared opportunities that you can build on for the future. And I would signal them along the way, right? Don't save them for the end as it's happening. Hey, what about this? Won't it be cool to try this next year? Oh, that didn't go the way we planned. How can we make sure that we make adjustments? Putting that in the report for our debrief, right? All the way along, you're engaging with them, knowing that your goal is multi-year is a different conversation there. And then ongoing relationship building. All the way along, you're looking for different ways to get them to know more about you, more about your cause, more about what you have to offer, always making new offers, right? If you're thinking about long term, then all of these different things can happen along the way. So, oh, so one example, I said I was going to show you how you could do it, thinking about it right from the start. So I was working with a youth organization that wanted to work like a kids organization, and they wanted to partner with a toy company. And they had identified a toy company that had alignment. But instead of going straight to the one meeting and the one proposal, they invited this company to an event where they got to know the charity. They got to know what kind of work the charity did. It was a focus group. It was a chance to share knowledge. They were so excited in this process by sharing the knowledge that then they wanted to have a conversation about a proposal, about a partnership. So they really had already seeded the idea of long-term and co-creation and building, even at the cultivation phase. So it is totally possible right from the start to be thinking about how this can be long-term. So your exercise, pick a company, put some time on the calendar and think about a company that you have alignment, because it's really not worth it to do it with anything else. And review your plan for how you're converting them into a partner, and think about how at each stage of your journey you could add in long-term thinking. What is the extra slide, the extra idea, the feedback loop that you could put in place? And then maybe try one of them, right? You don't have to try all at once. What would be one thing that you could do differently that integrates long-term partnership strategy throughout your partnership? And take action towards that shift. You can do it. Okay. So the last secret I'm going to cover is the secret of stickiness. Stickiness is a term that I use. Comes from advertising, where you go beyond the basics when you're building the relationship. You're building a strong relationship that is sticky. And if it's sticky, that means it has connections through multiple employees. It's definitely aligned. You might have different initiatives. You may have some program initiatives, some employees, some marketing. It's sticky if you can name a lot of different parts of the partnership when you're describing what it looks like. So if you want to have a sticky partnership, of course, you're fulfilling the basics, right? The basics of your partnership is your fulfillment on the commitments that are in the agreement. You're responding in a timely fashion. You're reporting back on what you said you would report back on, and you're giving appropriate recognition for the partnership and for the agreement. That's the basics, right? We all need to have that in place for a successful corporate partnership. But if you're making it sticky, you're going the next stage. So the next stage is how to grow stickiness, is to think about this. What are some ongoing communications that you can have with your partners? I was at a conference this week and listening to a company talk about a really strong corporate partnership. And she said, there should be no surprises from my partner. And what she meant was, they want to see the press release first. They want to know if you have another partnership that's kind of adjacent, but not exactly the same before it's out in the public. They want to know if something isn't working that you thought was going to be a part of their proposal, right? Ongoing communications with no surprises is how you grow stickiness. It's how you grow trust, right? Back to what we want in a successful partnership. We want trust. You need to steward the person and the company. This is where stewardship at the corporate partnership level is so different, right? On one hand, you're communicating with a person or a couple of people and building a relationship, sending them quick notes, staying in touch with them. But you're also recognizing that there's a responsibility to spread that message throughout the company. And how can you make that easy for them? How can you offer the story, the Canva shareable, the post in LinkedIn that amplifies the partnership in a way that helps both your person at the company, as well as the company at large. You need to know what's going on. What's going on in their space? Is there layoffs? Is there, recessionary pressures that are different? Are they winning awards? Anything like that. Stay abreast of what's going on with your partners. Whenever you can, say yes and the and is the boundaries, right? Sometimes companies will ask things that are just too big, too hard, too impossible. Is there some part of that you can do? If so, then to the best of your ability, say yes and. However, sometimes that's not the right answer. Sometimes the right answer is no. And if the right answer is no, be clear. Don't avoid it. Don't go and not answer at all. Just say no. Explain why. In the best scenario, you have clear reasons about why you're saying no, but say no. And finally, if you're growing stickiness, get employees involved, even if it's only a couple. Getting ambassadors that believe in your organization inside a company is one of the most important keys to stickiness. I encourage you to really prioritize that with your big partnerships. So what you're doing when you're talking about stickiness shifts, we're moving from an annual stewardship calendar that's very generic to customized and personalized connections, both to the company and to the individual. You're not just responding to their requests when you get around to it. Your timely responses are super important, and being as open and transparent about your situation as you can. You want to build internal champions, and you always want to plan with intention for the long term. So I know I'm going to go quick because I want to have enough time for questions, but I know we've all been in this scenario where we built up a partnership with one person and they go to another company, they go to another department. Most recently, I worked with a client that had this happen, and they were so lucky because the ambassador that they had, or their first contact, I think he must have known he was leaving, because he believed so much in their work that right from the start, he was bringing in other people, right? That isn't always the case. You don't always get that lucky. So right from the start, you should be making sure that there is more than one person copied on your emails, more than one person in your meetings, because you never know when someone is going to leave. It's so important, especially if it's a big partnership, that you don't want to put in an enormous amount of time and have it held with one person. So how can you think about all the real steps along the way? Thinking that intentionality and the ongoing stewardship is really something that you think about throughout the cycle, and all the steps that you can do to do that. So get near the end here, get your questions ready, get them in the chat. What is the recap? Here we go. Define what a successful corporate partnership is for you. If you can, write that down. Have some kind of North Star statement that really encapsulates what you believe partnership looks like at your organization. Build your own mindset mantras. You've got value. You're the prize. I've got something special to offer that you need. Investment is important as part of our partnership. Give yourself that pep talk before you get on the calls. Integrate your long-term thinking throughout the corporate partnership cycle, and similarly establish stickiness in your partnerships by having multiple touch points, multiple components that will maximize the investment a company makes in your organization. So one of the keys to success is writing down a tip that might work for you before you leave today. So take out a piece of paper or your notepad or your calendar and pull out one of the exercises, one of the nuggets I've shared that you think might work for you, and write it down. Make a commitment to try something different that you haven't tried before. If you want to throw your best tip into the chat, I'd love to see what nugget really resonated with those of you who are here live. That would be amazing. But listen to me here. This is the key. The best action you can take is to take action. I love feeling like the people listening here are going to do at least one thing that they heard today that is new for them. So please do take action. It honestly is not as hard as people make it out to be. Reach out, take the step, have the conversation, believe in yourself. I think that will really make the biggest difference. As I said, I am very active on LinkedIn. So please do reach out and connect with me on LinkedIn. I share content there all the time. If you want to avoid giving things away for free, this is the workbook that will help you do that. And I'm going to answer questions now. So I'm going to answer questions. Meredith has popped back on. I see her here. So here we go. I'm going to stop.
So let's get into some questions. Thanks so much, Heather. That was amazing. We've got lots of questions coming in. So the first one is, if a corporation's philanthropic focus changes and your organization no longer directly aligns, do you think there's a way to maintain that relationship with them?
It is hard to, I will admit, it is hard to maintain a relationship in that situation. The best thing you can do is before that happens, if your relationship is really strong, then you want to be in a position where they're letting you know that is going to happen, and maybe you can even have a conversation about what possibilities there might be. Sometimes we can shift from something that is very programmatic to something that is more employee engagement based. Sometimes we can shift from something that's programmatic to something that is more marketing based. It really does depend on the situation. However, sometimes it does happen that it changes and there really isn't a fit. And in those cases, I really, have the conversation, you try the things, and then maybe you move on, because we all have limited time, right? So it can happen, and those would be my suggestions. Honestly, something that has to do with employees would be my suggestion of the most likely thing that you'll be able to keep.
Amazing. We got it's kind of a comment from Kelsey, who's on the call today, but I would love your thoughts on it. And Kelsey says, I've noticed that some of the large corporate social responsibility teams are now focused very much on outcome reporting and less about creating a partnership. She's feeling like they just want to report back on how they helped.
I think, I don't know that I've seen that. I mean, every company is different. So is there some that are trying to make a difference, and they have defined it and are looking for impacts? Sure. And if that is the case, then, and you're comfortable building a partnership that way, I think go for it. My key advice would be to be very clear from the start what impact you can offer, and make sure that they're very clear on that, because we definitely don't want companies deciding on what impact your organization should have, right? So that, to me, that would really get away from any kind of equal representation in a partnership. But if you are doing work and they are willing to invest in you in order to make those impacts happen, and they don't want it to be more complicated than that, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, just making sure you can do that. The thing of it is if you haven't then built the relationship, that might end up being very transactional. And that could be an example where then if they shift, you get dropped. Whereas if you've built the relationship with the organization to be more complex than that, it will be more difficult for them to drop you if something like that happens down the road.
Amazing. I see a lot of questions coming in about tools for prospect research. We actually have another webinar that we did all about prospect research where a whole bunch of tools were covered. So feel free to go to our website and check that out, and you can download that webinar on demand. But we got a question from Dawn, and she's asking, and I imagine probably lots of people are thinking this today because we have nonprofits of all shapes and sizes, but she's asking if you have any advice on how to think of internal capacity relative to the ability to execute and manage a partnership well.
Sorry, any tools or any suggestions? I mean, I think the key is that it is true that, you know, good corporate partnerships do require time and capacity. So, you know, I think it's being realistic with yourself and your organization about how many partnerships are possible. I often see one of the strategies that happens is like getting a lot of partnerships. And, you know, when clients come to us, sometimes we're like, what would it look like if you had less that were more aligned, more investment, you got more money from them, but you then were managing fewer overall partnerships, and you know, sort of get out of the business of like a whole bunch of little ones, which can really be very time consuming. But it is true that, you know, this is not like an easy thing, right? There is time commitment. And my advice is always like a little bit of time regularly is better than a lot of time all at once. So if you are a smaller organization or you have limited capacity, carving out a certain amount of time on a weekly or biweekly basis and making a commitment to yourself, you're going to spend 2 hours on corporate partnership every week or every 2 weeks is better than you know, a day once a quarter or something. We do find clients, you know, who we work with, the smaller ones, like we have an accountability call every couple of weeks to keep things urgent, because one of the hardest things about corporate partnerships is it generally isn't urgent, right? There's not like a deadline, so it gets pushed in, it gets pushed in, it gets pushed. And it's way harder to call when you've like let there be too much time since your last call. So anything you can do to be very regular with it is something I encourage.
Okay, I think we have time for maybe one more. And again, I know lots of people had questions today, so feel free to connect with Heather on LinkedIn or reach out to us at Keela. But we have Michael asked, what changes do you see in corporate partnerships in the post-pandemic era, and how can we adapt our approach to attract new partners?
Okay. So it's interesting, and this maybe goes against what we were just talking about. We are seeing companies more companies want more holistic partnerships, so that have employee engagement, maybe some marketing and some impact deliverables. We are seeing more companies define their ESG, environmental social governance goals, and looking for charities that fit with those targets, goals, areas that they've defined. So that's increasingly going to become something. I did do a webinar on that too previously on my page. So you talk about that. This idea of impacts that are really measurable still is a thing. I mean, it has been for a number of years that companies are looking for these tangible impact metrics. That has not changed despite the conversation around more trust-based corporate partnerships. We're still seeing those. And I do think hybrid employee engagement. So, you know, we're seeing less people come into offices or go to places. So if you have the opportunity to involve employees in a virtual setting, that is a huge win.
Yes, for sure. We definitely saw lots more hybrid and virtual opportunities kind of pop up during the pandemic. So there's lots that can be done there. So we are at time, so that concludes the session for today. But thank you so much again, Heather, and thank you everyone for joining. Based on the engagement, I know everybody found incredible value from today's session, so thank you so much. Before we go, I just want to let everyone know that there will be a very short survey that will pop up right after this session. It should only take you about 20 seconds to complete, and we would greatly appreciate hearing your feedback. We have our next webinar coming out on November 7th called How Branding Can Maximize Your Giving Tuesday Impact. So if you are all preparing for Giving Tuesday, I would highly recommend checking it out at the link that Stephanie has been put in the chat there. And thank you again. Thank you, Heather, and thank you, everyone. We will see you at the next webinar.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.